Good morning, I'm Robert San. From your wallet to the wider economy, join us as we follow the money. Government infrastructure spending falls almost 52% this April as the fallout from the flood control corruption scandal drags on. What does this mean for the economy? And joining us this morning is Sonny Africa of IBON Foundation. Good morning, Sonny, and welcome to the show.
Morning. Thanks for the invitation. How are you doing today?
Sonny, infrastructure spending plunged nearly 52%. Now, is this simply a budget delay or evidence that corruption and politics have become so entrenched that government is now kind of afraid of spending?
It's hard to go into motivations, but I think it is quite suspicious that infrastructure spending has been slowing since the end of last year and flowing over into this year. I think right now, there's probably enough reason to suspect that the slowdown is not so much a mere scheduling problem, but really because there's so much infestation of corruption in our projects that corrupt officials and their maybe sponsors are a bit more careful not to leave a trail of breadcrumbs leading to their bank accounts. So unfortunately, I think it is more than not probably a sign that corruption is still entrenched and the corrupt are having a hard time, doing business as usual. And I think bottom line, there's a problem that our infrastructure spending and our economic growth is so corruption driven. I think that's a deeper concern here we have.
Now, with that kind of a big slowdown, 52%, what's the bigger risk here, Sonny? Is it spending too little or spending on the wrong projects?
I'm sorry, Sir Robert. A bumblebee sort of got into my earpiece. I actually missed most of that. I'm so sorry.
With this massive slowdown of infrastructure project, what's the biggest risk now? Is it spending too slow or spending on infrastructure projects that we don't need?
Well, actually, of course, the immediate impact will be to worsen the economic slowdown. I mean, inflation has picked up even if it's slowing. Inflation will depress household spending with 75% for economy-dependent household spending. That is a huge depressionary pressure. Add to that the second biggest source of demand in the economy is government spending, especially infrastructure. With that slowing down, that really just adds on top of the slowdown in household spending. So to actually see the economy slowing in the coming months, I think it's quite fair to expect that 3% or lower growth. But I think the bigger problem is that isn't so much to spend more just to boost growth, but to actually spend better. And I think the administration will be facing its first challenge, I think, in the next SONA. What happens after Mahiya naman kayo? I think, of course, people wanted accountability for the corrupt flood control projects. But I think more fundamentally, it's not just accountability for past bad spending. It's actually ensuring that the government systems are in place, that any new spending will be spent well. And I think that's where where we are right now. We're not getting much of the accountability we wanted. And because we're not getting much of the accountability we wanted, we're not actually fixing how we spend right now. So I think more than the spending per se and the dampening effect on growth, I think the question is, how are we fixing the problem to begin with?
Now, what does this mean now for growth in the coming months and also jobs? If infrastructure growth has slowed down this much. We've seen GDP at 2.8%. Do we see this slowing down even more?
I'm sorry again, the bumblebee's getting in the way, but I think definitely we do have a huge problem because a big chunk of our jobs in the last, actually 15 years have come from infrastructure spending, especially public infrastructure spending. And then we also have to understand, even a lot of private spending, investment spending is driven by public spending. There's sort of a, I forgot the term for that. There's a multiplier effect. There's a sort of a demonstration effect from big public spending to sort of boost private spending. So bottom line, yes, we are going to be facing huge jobs volatility. But the problem also, I think, is that construction should never have been the main source of our jobs. I mean, more than the short-term jobs, we should have actually been spending on infrastructure that was boosting domestic agriculture and domestic manufacturing. Because at the end of the day, people have to spend for their daily needs, whether it's food or their manufactured goods. if it was the local economy producing that, that's actually a stable source, not just of goods and services, but fundamentally a stable source of jobs and incomes. And because so much of our infrastructure spending wasn't just,
Okay.
depleted through
Yes.
corruption, so much of it didn't actually help build agriculture and manufacturing. We don't have that stable base in job creation and income, income stability.
Okay, Sonny, we still have much to discuss, but we'll just take a short break. We'll continue this discussion after that break. Keep following the money. Welcome back to Follow the Money. You're still tuned in to our conversation with IBON Foundation Executive Director, Sonny Africa. Now, Sonny, we always hear statistics like GDP, inflation, growth. Now, if you were to grade the economy like a report card, what subjects are they failing right now?
I think most important subjects, jobs, incomes, and household food supply, accessibility. Right now, the government might report sort of kind of seemingly not so bad jobs figures, but a lot of employment is so low paying that people aren't actually earning enough from employment to call it decent employment. So I think biggest failure right now is that people not having enough decent jobs to actually support their lives. Hunger increased, I think, mainly because of the problem with joblessness, and low incomes. But of course, in the long term, I think fundamentally industrial development. I mean, there's been a lot of hype about back silica and a lot of sort of suppose semiconductor AI hype. But bottom line, if the Philippines doesn't have a rational Philippine industrialization policy, having foreign investment come in just makes us an address for foreign industry and doesn't develop Filipino industry. And I think those two are intertwined: lack of jobs, decent wages, and also lack of industrial development.
Now, Sonny, people have jobs but still can't live decently. Unemployment is at 4.7%. But at what point do we stop calling this employment and start calling it a problem?
I think, well, we're exactly there right now. But by Ibon's estimation, anywhere from 3 to 4 out of 5 jobs, 75 to 80% of jobs, are actually informal jobs. Informal meaning no regular contracts, whether verbal or written, irregular pay, no benefits. I think that's a huge problem because if most of our employment is actually informal jobs, either in the informal sector or informal in nature, like self-employment, that's actually not employment, because the common sense notion is if you have employment, you're earning enough for your family to meet basic needs, whether working full-time or part-time. So where we are right now, I mean, like you said, it's not so bad to sound, 4 to 5% unemployment doesn't seem to sound bad. But
if you look at it in absolute terms.
Yeah, but the high employment and high poverty and hunger despite high employment actually means not just having a job isn't enough. I mean, a job shouldn't be a way of managing poverty. It should be a path out of poverty. And I think that's where we are right now. Unemployment is a problem, but unfortunately, even employment is a problem because it's very poor quality employment.
Now, so as you mentioned, it's pretty clear that those who are not benefiting are the average daily workers. Now, on the flip side, who is actually benefiting from the Philippine economy set up right now?
Unfortunately, we are seeing big corporations reporting rising profits, personal wealth clearly growing. At the very, very top of the Philippine income and wealth heap, we had our first trillionaire a couple of weeks ago. Even our billionaires, with some adjustments, generally their wealth is still increasing. But unfortunately, the majority is left behind. So I think it's quite clear the largest benefits from whatever growth we have does accrue to large corporations, including foreign corporations, dominant local business groups, also wealthier households that own assets. But again, we're a population of 115 million, 28 million families. Presumably, we want an economy where the gains could reach the majority of workers, farmers, and consumers. But the gains there at that majority level are actually much smaller.
Now, why is the gap so wide? And how can we minimize that?
Yeah. Well, I think there are two basic problems to that. One, the pie isn't very big. I know there's a lot of hype about the Philippines being an an upper middle income country in a year, 2 year, 3 years time. But even if that happens, we will still be in the bottom 1/3 of the world. So the pie is basically too small because we don't have any sort of program for national industrialization. National industrialization meaning not just foreigners putting their factories here, but really Filipino-oriented industrial policy to build Filipino manufacturing and high technology industries. So we have to make the pie bigger. Second problem, the pie is already small as it is, but the way the economy is structured, the pie goes to a few people. Our tax system is too regressive, it's increasingly regressive. Our wages are too low. On the other hand, there's a lot of protection of profits, a lot of concentration of even fiscal resources in corrupt government officials. So you have a small pie to begin with from lack of industrialization, but even that small pie, the economy is structured to make the pie go to just a few. And I think that is not acceptable, I think, for us.
Now, having said that, if you had to fix one thing in the economy that would hurt in the short term, but help in the long term, what would it be?
Well, I think national industrialization policy, meaning really putting in place Filipino-oriented industrial policy to build domestic manufacturing, Filipino firms manufacturing, I think that will be the one fix we need. It shouldn't hurt in the short term because the whole point is to develop now in a way that creates jobs now, and it also builds productive capacity in the future. So there's actually no trade-off. It's completely consistent, but it's a question of the government choosing to redirect resources, change incentives, and make long-term investments, not in corruption, but in investments that yield long-term industrial development. So I think the only hurt that will be happening is maybe political resistance from sectors not getting their cut as they've been used to. Adjustment costs can be managed. I mean, the whole point of the government controlling the economy is that you will manage costs. Everything has adjustment costs, but it can be done. People who are most vulnerable and most dependent on current livelihoods can be supported in that transition to national industry.
Now, looking at that, what economic problem right now is growing, but nobody in power really wants to talk about?
I'm sorry to press the point, but relentless deindustrialization and agricultural decline, it should be talked about. Philippine manufacturing, smallest in almost 80 years. Philippine agriculture, smallest in the country's history. If you're complaining about lack of jobs, lack of formal jobs, or expensive food, that's where it's rooted in. And it's just making things worse. The global economy right now is not just more uncertain. You know, the Middle East issue is not just one of it. It's not just more uncertain, it's more hostile. It's more hostile because the big economic powers are becoming more protectionist, becoming more aggressive, becoming more self-interested. So if you don't sort of fix our relentless deindustrialization and agricultural decline, that vulnerability we have built up over the last 50 years, which has become even worse in the next 50 years.
Now, Sonny, how can we change that so that we don't become too reliant on imports, which we are now, and really grow the agricultural sector, the manufacturing sector, and really get back on track and build things from here instead of getting from outside?
I think it's just taking it seriously. We have to get over this thinking that foreign capital will save us. Have to get over this thinking that we can't produce enough food and have to import everything. Simply reorienting government policy to focus on domestic production, focus on increasing the capacity to buy, the purchasing power of Filipino consumers, that actually can set in motion a virtuous cycle of more aggregate demand from more household purchasing power. More household purchasing power is a bigger market for potentially Filipino agriculture and Filipino industry. And then if Filipino agriculture and Filipino industry develop, that's more jobs, more purchasing power in a virtuous cycle. But it's so weird because we're so stuck in thinking foreign investment will save us.
Now,
It won't. I mean, we have to define how they work, operate in the economy for foreign investment to be helpful. And they say, we can import food cheaply. Yes, but if people can't afford to buy even the cheap food, we have the growing hunger we're facing right now.
Now, having said that, Sonny, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a time that we were in some industries, some sectors, we were leading in exports. Can we get back to that again?
I think we have to reassess what the Philippines can manufacture, can produce, both for domestic needs, given that we can import things cheaper, but also what the global economy needs. And I think if we don't have that honest reassessment, let's start from where we are. What do we have? Backward agriculture, but it can still be developed. We have pockets of industry. We have actually Filipinos with some level of skill in some Filipino firms. Maybe we just need sort of spur development. And our favorite example the last couple of weeks, I use a Samsung phone. I found out a couple of months ago, Samsung started out as a small grocery and trading center, but now it's Samsung. So the Philippines right now, most of our MSMEs are in wholesale and retail trade. I think that can be a point of inspiration. We have to look further beyond where we are right now. And actually the government has a big role in that because a small Samsung trading house won't go into manufacturing, especially high-tech electronics manufacturing, without government support. So our thinking now is the government shouldn't expect national industry to sort of fall out of the sky. The enabling conditions have to be created by the Philippine government.
So do you think that the government should really have 100% support for our MSMEs so that we can grow things on the ground here from the Philippines and have it exported outside? Since majority of our SMEs are, there's 90% of the businesses here are the small businesses that do really need help and support.
Yes, and expand the opportunities for our MSMEs, because supporting MSMEs doesn't just mean supporting where they are right now. That's a very backward, retrogressive way, because if supporting MSMEs is just giving them help in what they're doing now, that will be supporting mainly wholesale and retail trade, hotel and restaurant, and some other, job generating to small degree, but those aren't industrial activities. So supporting MSME should be building on where they are right now, but more importantly, giving them a vision of an economy, a Philippine economy in 15 years, 30 years time, an industrialized Philippine economy where their small business right now can do a Samsung, transition from trade to manufacturing to maybe AI or whatever high technology sector is important in 30 years time. So that vision will never come, will never materialize on the part of MSMEs without government support. The government is the only entity in the Philippines, in any country, that can sort of put that long view in terms of economic practice.
Now, Sonny, let's talk a little bit about your foundation, IBON Foundation, because critics do say IBON is too negative at times. Now, if you look at it, what's one government policy that you actually agree with?
First, Robert, that criticism would have more bite if critics actually followed up with facts. To be honest, we're a research group. We'd be happy to be told where we're wrong so we can be corrected. Otherwise, the criticism's misplaced, and it's a situation and the policies that should trigger the anger about negativism. We're just messengers. Having said that, we completely support all measures that genuinely improve the people's welfare. If the government expanded social protection, which it does doing to some degree right now, if it improves public infrastructure, not just transport, but even education and health, and even strengthening universal access to social services, we completely support that. And thing is, right now, those measures are in place or headed in the right direction, but the problem is not the current policy. The problem is the scale and consistency of the policy. We were talking about agriculture earlier. We completely support everything except liberalization that the Agriculture Department says it's supporting farmers. But why is it so small? So bottom line, we agree with expanding social services, social protection. We agree with supporting agriculture. But for that to be more than performative, there has to be much larger scale, much larger consistency, apart from
more
sorting out
action than reaction. But Sonny, if nothing truly changes, what will the average Filipino life look like in the next 10 years?
Filipinos work so hard. Filipinos will be working even harder, but actually facing more insecurity. Economic growth can continue, but inequality, vulnerability, that chronic poverty and hunger, it will unfortunately remain a persistent feature of daily life.
Okay. Sonny, you've done this before. We'll go to the rapid fire segment. Just answer yes or no. No need to explain. Can the Philippines become a high-income country before 2020?
No, history says otherwise.
Is corruption a bigger economic problem than inflation? Yes or no?
No, both are serious.
Should minimum wages be increased today? Yes or no?
Yes, they should. Enough profits.
Now, would you advise your own child to build a future in the Philippines today? Yes or no?
Definitely yes, but build a country where opportunities are more fairly shared.
Are you optimistic about the Philippine economy over the next 5 years? Yes or no?
I have to qualify. Yes, if people keep speaking out, standing up, and demanding better in the workplace, in the streets, at the ballot box, in the countryside.
Definitely. Finally, Sonny, imagine you're speaking to every Filipino family right now, not as an economist, but as a teacher. What's the one economic lesson you wish every household understood today that could completely change the way they vote, the way they work, and the way they save, borrow, invest, and build their future?
Super simple. The economy is not something given to us. The economy is something the government and we create. Let's not judge policies by the technocratic arguments or GDP figures. Simple question. That economy we have right now, for whom? What economy do we want? An economy improving the lives of ordinary Filipinos. Stop a few just getting rich. Economy is not something that falls from the sky. It reflects practical political policy choices. Let's demand better. We can have better.
Okay, on that note, thank you very much for joining us this morning, Sonny, for your insights and your advice.
Thank you. Good morning. Thanks, Robert.
And that's all for today. I'm Robert Tan. Thanks for watching. Keep it here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel. And always, follow the money.